Hey guys, this is Crazy Sean DX, and welcome to this video, and welcome to another rendition of Praise Appraisal, where I determine if a game is worth the praise or not worth the craze. Pokémon! Pokémon is probably an ultimate juggernaut of a franchise. Well, if we stop at the year 2001 anyway. Yeah, back in 1998 to 2001, Pokémon was everywhere. I don't think it was as everywhere as, say, Minecraft or Fortnite, but it was many places. Hell, it even had a Monopoly version, and where I come from, you've made it if you got your own board game spin-off. Fast forward to 2016, and world peace was temporarily achieved with Pokémon Go, a sort of AR mobile game where you can walk all over the world, as far as you can go anyway, and capture Pokémon, substantial data plan required. Despite it being somewhat lacking, with it even now only having Pokémon up to Gen 4, it was a rousing success and brought in a ton of non-fans and casuals. As a result, Nintendo wanted to bring in this section of the player base into the actual Pokémon fan base with Pokémon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, a spin-off of the mainline series that also doubles as a remake of Pokémon Yellow. The announcement admittedly drew ire from the elitist Pokémon fans, with them claiming it'd never sell, and then over 10 million people shut their asses up at buying it anyway. Well, we're here to determine if it's any good or not, so let's get our Joy-Con, do me a sec. Sorry. Oh boy, didn't mean that. Oh, there we go. Alright. Jam this thing in. Wait, no, it's like, no. This is Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu. Oh, I only need one Joy-Con. I have wasted everyone's time! So yeah, the first major difference here is that you use only one Joy-Con to play the game, with the other options being the Pokeball Plus and, of course, handheld mode. And as awesome as it was to play with the Pokeball Plus, it wasn't very great to control right, with there technically being only one button to press if we don't count clicking the control stick. Other stuff is used when shaking the Pokeball Plus, and it just didn't feel very versatile to use. In fact, I ended up mostly playing this game portably and used the Switch's capture feature to record footage for this game. I'll admit, it was a bit annoying to have to do as much as I did, but it was nowhere near as annoying as waiting hours to convert the footage to work with my editing software, as like with the PS4 and Xbox One, the footage is automatically recorded in variable frame rate mode and not constant frame rate mode. But I'm getting sidetracked. The game technically begins with the player in their own room and lured into the TV, a la that Game Master TV show that was a thing in the 90s and butchered so much of what we knew and loved about certain video games. Now, this could be an interesting little side bit, with the player character dealing with being in a world unfamiliar to them, coping with not being able to see their loved ones, or the new rival will just somewhat acknowledge it and then it'll never be brought up again for literally the rest of the game. Okay, I get it. It's a Pokemon game, and a remake of one of the most basic generations in the history of Pokemon, but surely they could have done something with this, right? I mean, granted, they need the player in the post-game so we can keep playing the game, but why not go the mystery dungeon route and have their character decide to stay in the Pokemon world? Not to mention that the Gen 6 and Gen 7 games have done amazingly well in their storytelling, with the Delta episode in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire being my favorite post-game content yet. So how come they just decide to pretend it never happened again? I don't know, I'm a stickler for this sort of crap. The gameplay is rather interesting, and is something I've kind of wanted to see happen ever since I played a ROM hack of a Pokemon that alluded to it with the Wii. I cannot remember the ROM hack though. So while Pokemon battles are different here, in that all you can do, much like with Pokemon Go, is throw a Pokeball and hope for the best. You do this by using the Joy-Con's motion controls to throw a Pokeball at the Pokemon. It's admittedly pretty finicky at times, but it's still pretty amazing that we've come this far with gaming regardless. Honestly though, I prefer catching Pokemon in handheld mode, as you can actually move the system around to be able to throw a Pokeball at a Pokemon just right a lot of the time. Of course, you can also use special berries to either make catching easier, make them stop hopping around, or just increase the chances of getting a special item after catching the Pokemon. And yes, there's a chance that the Pokemon will run away if you take too long trying to catch it, because they couldn't make this already easy game easier. As for how your Pokemon gain experience, well, aside from trainer battles, the entire party earns experience after you catch a Pokemon, almost as if the EXP share is just a part of your person now. It honestly makes things a lot easier in an enjoyable way for me personally, because if there's one thing I hated about the Gen 1 games, not counting the remakes of course, it's the grinding that you had to do just to match the levels of the gyms in Elite Four. Hell, it was especially bad in Yellow, with Erica's highest level being 32, her being the 4th gym leader, and then Koga, the 5th gym leader, their highest level being 50! 50! That's an 18 level difference! Anyway, much like Yellow, you get a Pokemon as your starter, and my god did they not skip leg day or any day on this one. Whether you're playing the Pikachu version or the Eevee version, your starter is freaking P. Its base stats are through the roof, making it the most powerful member of your team. It also helps that it can learn unique moves from various NPCs, making it all the more worthwhile to use in battle. Also, the way they managed to skip around HMs this time was by having special moves meant for the trainer to be taught to your starter, including riding a balloon chair for Fly, which, honestly, is so amazing to watch. Just look at it flow out of, it's so precious. There's also a sort of Pokemonomy-like section where you play with your Pikachu, and sometimes even get gifts from them. I don't know what you're supposed to do with them, and I refuse to sell them regardless of whether or not they're worth anything, so I just held on to them because I knew it would make the yellow ball of shock happy. You can also change their hairstyle, but only in handheld mode, something I legit didn't know how to do until I was near the end of the game. Same goes for Pikachu's signature Pika-Pow move that is essentially their ultimate attack, as due to having played primarily in handheld mode, I was technically locked out from using the move and had to play it docked so I could attack with it during battle. To be fair, the game never directly explains this outside of a gif of Pikachu's silhouette rocking a Joy-Con back and forth, but again, how was I supposed to know what to do about that? Did I mention I miss when games had manuals? Even digital is fine, just give me manuals, I miss those. Physical is nice too, please. There's also the fact that when talking to Pikachu in the play option, they just come off as heavily generic, to the point that I was expecting Pikachu to act scared while in Pokemon Tower, but nope! They were largely unfazed by it, as if to say they were dead inside. Which is ironic given the whole Pokemon Tower bit. Not to mention that they don't even act like they're hurt when inflicted with a status condition either. Pokemon Yellow was able to do this just fine, so why not the remake here? In fact, the only times Pikachu ever felt scared in any way, shape, or form was when we were in the same area as a legendary Pokemon, which made them feel even more basic in all honesty. Speaking of, the legendary battles, and Snorlax, are actually the only real wild Pokemon battles in the game, where you gotta get their HP down to 0 and then you'll be able to throw a Pokeball at them, essentially throwing away everything we were taught about catching Pokemon. Granted, we don't have to put our worries in if we'll accidentally kill them before catching them, at least. No, now they're placed in the 5-minute time limit we have with battling them. Wait, what?! Yes, you heard that right. There is a 5-minute time limit when battling legendary Pokemon and Snorlax, and it ends up being at its worst when trying to catch Mewtwo. It took me more tries than I care to admit, let alone remember, to catch this damn mutant cat, to the point that I just immediately used the Master Ball on it as soon as I could, just in case something went wrong, cause screw having to do all that crap again! Speaking of mutant cats, the Pokeball Plus contained Mew, to the point that it made my friend Othershawn very happy to use during our stream of the game, which you can find in my gameplay archive channel, CSDX Gameplay. Aren't I just the most subtle with my plugs, please? As for the Pokeball Plus, you can actually use it to bring a Pokemon with you on the go, much like the Pokewalker from Pokemon Heart Gold Soul Silver, except you're able to raise it more than one level while they're in the Plus, and even interact with it as they make noises for you to pet it and whatnot, and if you don't think that's the tightest and most precious crap you've ever seen, then get the hell out of my face right now. In addition, you can have your Pokemon follow you around, like in Yellow, though your starter is either on your shoulder or your head, depending on the version you have, and the following mechanic also lets you ride certain Pokemon, including Snorlax, who, while not fast in the slightest, is still arguably the best one to ride in my opinion. Oh lord, he coming. Of course I ended up riding Charizard the most, as you technically fly around, but only in the post-game can you actually fly above everything in the game, and even manage to catch flying Pokemon, including the 3 legendary birds, even if you already caught them, because reasons. Of course Team Rocket makes an appearance, and so do Jesse and James as a result, because, again, this is a Yellow remake. Except they don't use Meowth in battle this time, and he still doesn't talk human, so wasted opportunity there even! Not to mention that you even encounter an old face from the Johto remakes, maybe to set up a Johto Let's Go entry. I don't know, I'm just spitballing. As for your rival, well, let's be honest, he's pretty enjoyable and not an absolute prick like Blue is, you know, he's right over there too. Wait, what? Yeah, that's another thing actually. This is a Pokemon Yellow remake, and yet Red, Blue, and the long missing Green make appearances as if they've already made a name for themselves. And yet we still don't have the Yellow Trainer. From the manga. You know the one. This just makes it so friggin' confusing with how we're literally repeating past events that they themselves already took care of, including the end of Team Rocket, so this honestly just makes the timeline with Pokemon games even more confusing to try and wrap your head around as it is. And we were worried about the Zelda timeline this whole time. Now, I've not encountered Red in this game yet, but Blue shows up as a sort of mentor that passes through here and there, and Green, though, was the oddest one to deal with, as you face her after having caught Mewtwo, and after the battle she says she wants me to be hers, or rather her Pokemon or something, and just threw 5 Pokeballs at me, and I'm not sure if I should call the police on this pervert or not. I mean, bear in mind, the protagonist is a kid, and Green, if I'm not mistaken, is an adult, so this just makes things uncomfortably confusing and concerning. Call the police actually help. But hey, at least we get to see Cubone say goodbye to their mother and cry about it. Seriously, when they want to tug at your heartstrings, they can and they will. In addition to all of this, you can transfer your Pokemon from Go to the Let's Go games, and as sad as it is to say, it completely replaces the Safari Zone.
0 out of 10, 0 out of 100. Worst game ever!
Interestingly, they managed to also incorporate the CP or combat power from the Go games into the Let's Go games, even though the leveling system itself hasn't really changed at all and is somewhat shoehorned in and yet not? I don't know, I do feel it's a bit simpler for this sort of thing, but again, this was aimed at the casual Go players in hopes of bringing in more fans, and I can't fault them for it as long as the game's good.
And honestly, that's about all I can really say about this game. So, how much praise do we think it's worth?
This game is not harmful in any way, and it's a nice way to introduce people into the Pokemon franchise. Granted, not everything is perfect about it, as there's still a number of flaws that the game has, such as the motion controls for Pokeball throwing being meh, but I still had a blast playing this game. I mean, I sunk 40 plus hours into it, even if it took me a little over a month to really beat it, so it's safe to say it definitely caught my attention in a positive way.
I mean, if it feels this great on the Switch, imagine how great Sword and Shield is gonna feel. That's a big old doggo. I must hug it.